The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. I'm on the ball this morning, aren't I? I get the news wrong. I can't remember which track we've just been playing. My excuse is, at the moment, I was distracted because, of course, it's Wednesday. And we've got one of our guests from the Dooralong Transformation Centre with us this morning. And this morning it's Kieran, who's come all the way from Dooralong. So good morning to you, Kieran. How are you going?
I'm going quite well, Phil.
Yeah, good. We were talking off, and Kieran is really rugged up well because it's quite cold, but you've also been somewhere colder recently, haven't you?
Yeah, just went to the snow trip with Dooralong and had 2 days of snowboarding at Mount Selwyn.
Yeah, good fun?
Yeah, it was excellent.
Yeah, have you done that sort of thing before? Or?
Once before,
yeah.
When I was in high school, but
yeah,
not for quite some time.
How many of the guys go down for the snow trip?
I think with the guys, girls and staff that went, there was 27 of us.
Oh, that's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
there was about 10 guys that went.
Yeah. And you go down for the weekend?
Yeah, we left Friday, had it all Saturday and Sunday snowboarding and skiing, and then we came back on early Monday morning.
And they've had good snow this season, haven't they?
It was great.
Yeah, yeah.
The best I've seen in my life.
Yeah. Our breakfast presenter, Mick, he gets really jealous of what you've just been saying because he is a really big snow freak, but the thing is he's broken his hand, so he's not been able to go. So there you go. Yeah. You can probably hear Kieran now because I hadn't got the microphone. What is wrong with me this morning? Everything I'm doing, it's sort of... Was it the Midas touch in reverse? Everything I do is wrong. But yeah, Kieran was just explaining, and you may not have heard him, he was explaining how he's been down to the snow with some guys from Dooralong. 27 other guys just went for this last weekend for a snow trip down at Dooralong. And how long have you been down at Dooralong now, Kieran?
Just under 9 months.
9 months. That's quite a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's it going for you?
Really well. Yeah. You have your ups and your downs out there, but
I'm sure you do. Yeah. But you can see that progress is being made.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've made definitely not the same person sitting here now as the person that went into that place.
Well, that's good news. Yeah. Yeah. That's really good news. So it was 8 months ago that you went to Dooralong. If we turn the clock back even further. You were telling me off air that you're a poly user. What's a poly user?
Oh, well, I use multiple substances, like pretty much anything I could get my hands onto.
Yeah. So it wasn't just one particular drug or one particular substance?
Anything that could, mask the pain of reality or make me feel better for a short period of time.
So it's different drugs and alcohol, the whole shebang.
Yeah, alcohol, weed, and ice, and then I did use party drugs such as ecstasy and acid a bit when I was a bit younger, but in the last few years it's just been mainly weed and ice and alcohol.
And you said you'd take any drug to mask the pain without getting into a huge amount of detail and, with what you're comfortable, but what was happening for you in your life that you were trying to blot out?
Well, relationships that weren't working out, be it with girlfriends or with my parents even, just
so it was emotional pain.
Yeah, just emotional pain. I couldn't really deal with life on life's terms, I guess you would say, even though it's quite a cliche thing to say, but
it was true.
Yeah, very true.
And easier just to do the drugs and
it was
zone out.
Yeah, it was just the way I knew how to handle things, and the more and more my life went down a bad path, the more I would use to cover that up and make myself think that life was all fine. And
and in reality it was far from fine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Would you have called yourself an addict at that stage?
There's definitely for a long time I didn't. I put myself into a different category. As I look back on it now, I can't even understand how I did that, but definitely at a point in the last 12 months, when people would ask me what I was doing, I would just say it's because I'm a drug addict and this is what I do. And so
But for a long time you didn't even admit to yourself that you were addicted.
No, I just did it because that's what I like to do. That's what I told myself.
Yeah. And the number of guys, and we've said it before on Wednesday morning, the number of guys that we've spoken to who have, in their own words, they've been in denial. As far as they were concerned, they could have stopped. It might have been hard, but they could have stopped if they had wanted to.
Yes, I just definitely didn't want to.
But you didn't want to?
Yes, that's what I said in my denial.
Taking all these drugs, party drugs and the harder drugs and the alcohol that you were taking must have taken its toll on the people around you as well.
Oh, definitely. I think, as you said off air, having my parents seeing their son self-destruct must have been hurting them so much. I know that my mum definitely had sleepless nights at home worrying about where I was or what I was getting up to, and
because there was no history of drug or alcohol addiction in the family.
I think there's a little bit. I would say my mum enjoys a drink, but she's definitely not. She has her life somewhat functioning, but even in that, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But
the extreme that you went to was something way out of their experience.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. We usually ask, and I hope you don't mind us asking, what your low point was, because we've heard so many times how the drugs and the alcohol just really messes up people's lives.
It's hard to pinpoint a single moment of absolute lowness. It was definitely over a period of time I was on rock bottom, and I probably denied it.
Yeah.
But definitely when I was sitting in the jail cell up at Muswellbrook, knowing that I wasn't going to get bail after I breached an AVO on my own parents, and had a verbal and physical confrontation with my own parents. Absolutely felt like dirt, and
When you say you felt like dirt, you were embarrassed by your own behaviour, ashamed of your own behaviour.
Ashamed, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely ashamed.
And that's what the drink and the alcohol and the drugs can do to you.
Yeah.
So you were, you said there you were in jail, so that would have been a fairly low point, I'm imagining.
Yep.
Yeah. So, when did you start to think about turning it round? When did you start to think about rehabs?
I knew I was going to try and go for the Dooralong option because a friend had said to me, Kieran, don't be silly, if you can go to rehab, go to rehab, because at least at Dooralong you can smoke, and in jail you can't. And I sat there and I thought, well, instead of trying to be a tough guy and do a lagging in jail, I'll try and I'll go to this rehab because at least I can smoke. And to be honest, when I first went there, I didn't have any.
If you don't mind me saying so, that's a pretty weak excuse to go to Dooralong.
Oh, but that's the insanity of it.
That's exactly right.
That's the
you chose
insanity.
Dooralong over jail simply because you could smoke at Dooralong.
Yeah.
It just shows you the way your mind was thinking at that time. It's just
my life
not
was
rational,
just
is
my
it?
life was just revolving around using something to take my mind off myself.
And that just exemplifies it so well. Yeah. So you decided to go to Dooralong rather than jail because you could smoke at Dooralong, but yeah. So, did you ring Dooralong, or did somebody ring them for you?
I did call up a few weeks before I got arrested, and that was probably to try and make my mum happy, I guess, at the time. And I called up and spoke to Sharon. It was probably Sharon, and she said that I'd have to call up for the next 3 months, twice a week.
Wow.
And in my head at that time, because it was so hard making that first phone call, even slightly giving in to the argument that I had a problem. My head just went, that's not happening.
No, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. And I hung up and didn't have any intention to call back up. But then when I did, and then I got locked up, and then had the interview with the merit officers, who it's early magistrate early intervention into rehab program, something like that. That's how I got in. So I was quite fortunate, really, because a lot of people have to wait a long time to get in, and I was fortunate in the way that I got straight in without having to go through that hard process of calling up every day. I don't understand how some people do it, so hats off to the people that do it.
It's it makes you. It's people who really want it desperately, isn't it? But as you say, to go on a waiting list for 3 months as an addict and then try to keep yourself clean when you're living with this disease must be really hard.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know I couldn't have done it.
Did you have to go to detox first? Because we've spoken to
Well,
some people that have had to sort of go to Wyong Hospital for a detox.
I would have had to. I would have only spent 1 day in jail and then gone down to William Booth for detox, but I couldn't get there before they shut or something like that. I had to get from Singleton at 1 o'clock down to William Booth at 3 o'clock, and that feasibly isn't possible. So went back to jail and did my detox in there.
Yeah. I was going to say, well, at least in jail there are no drugs, but that's probably not true either.
No, there's plenty of drugs in jail. A lot of bute, which is a type of synthetic morphine or heroin or something. And,
so sort of hard drugs as well.
Yeah, but
Scary.
in saying that, even when I was offered that in jail, I've seen heaps of people pretty stuffed up on the opiates, and it's something I have tried to avoid as much as possible, because I just knew I guess part of me knew I had enough addictions in my life, and
you didn't need another one.
Didn't need another one on my plate.
Yeah. But the good news is that eventually you found your way to Dooralong.
Yes, and it wasn't. I can't say as soon as I got there I went, yep, I'm going to change my life, But over the course of the first month, I started realising that I didn't know everything, and
because we've talked to other people who've been sort of they've gone on sort of a drug program from jail, and I think there was a minimum term that they had to stay, and whether it's a couple of months or whatever, but after that they could leave Dooralong if they wanted to. Is that the same sort of thing?
Same situation for me. Yeah, I had to do 3 months,
and then you could have left. And
then I could have left after that. I went and got sentenced, and
but you've been there 8.5 months.
Yeah, just under 9 months. So after I finished merit, I decided, look, I want to at least give myself 3 more months in here and just prove to myself that I want to do good for myself, and that I'm not just doing this to stay out of jail.
Yeah.
Because by that 3 months period, I was starting to make work of myself. I think I'd quit smoking by that point even, and which is kind of ironic, seeing as I.
That's why you went there.
That's why I went there, and realised that I want a better life for myself, and that I wanted to be free from addiction, and have control of my life.
So you could have left after 3 months, but you've stayed, and you're still there 8.5 months later.
Yep, 9 months later, pretty much, and
one of the better decisions of your life.
Best decision I've made in my life. Yeah.
Best decision in your life. A good point, I think, to break for some more music. We'll come back. We'll talk to Kieran again about what the last 8.5 months has looked like for. He's just gone 27 minutes past 10. We're talking to Kieran this morning. He's explained to us how he went to Dooralong straight from jail, and we were sort of flippantly and jokingly making the point that he chose Dooralong over jail simply because he could smoke at Dooralong. I'm sure there was more to it than that. But the good news is you made it to Dooralong. What was your first week like?
First week was quite tough. I missed my dog very much, and I think knowing that I could have gone through the bush all the way to Singleton, where I come from, and caught my dog and taken a car and escaped across the border, crossed my mind many times.
Yeah.
It was hard too, because I had that chance to go and to escape, I guess, whereas in jail you have these big walls around you and there's no chance of that.
That's right. I mean, it's an open community, isn't it? You can just walk out the gate if you want to.
Yep. Very glad that I didn't, and I think I prayed to God to take care of my dog so many times in that first week.
Yeah.
Pretty much pleading with him, I think, and thankfully my dog is still okay. I've got very good parents that have taken care of him.
Excellent.
And I can remember, I was just telling you before, on my first day, I think something about turning up there and realising that at this place I'm going to have to face myself, and I'm going to have to sit with my emotions. And I had only just come out of detox pretty much, and I was only just starting to not feel the effects of the drugs anymore. And I've gone up to my room, and I was also wearing the clothes that I got arrested in, so they were reminding me of what I had just done and things like that. So I've gone up to my room, I've had a bit of a cry, and I just remember hopping up, punching my pillow and going, I'm going to get this, and I'm not going to feel like this ever again. And I think that was a very defining point in my first
turning point for you.
And then after that, it took me a bit of time to still get settled in. I think I made a few ripples in the community. At least I'm told I did.
Okay, you're a bit of a bad boy.
I just I don't know. I'd speak my mind, and thought I knew what was wrong with everyone, and didn't have a problem with telling them their problems. And
bit of ego.
Massive
Ego. Yeah. But you've been there 8 months. What have you learnt about yourself?
I've learnt that I'm not perfect. I've learnt that I don't know everything. I've learnt
that's okay.
Yeah. It takes a lot of pressure off me, actually. Accepting that accepting that not everything I do is going to be the right thing, and not always expecting the perfect result for myself. Which is, it's a very ironic thing to say that, but I always had real high standards of myself, and
And you were explaining to us before the break that you could have checked out of Dooralong after just 3 months. So, but you didn't. You're still there 8.5 months later. So during that 3 months, your whole mindset must have changed in some way.
Yeah.
Turned around and sort of wanted it for yourself.
Yeah.
Wanted to be clean.
Yeah. Well, I realised that I can't get clean just to make my parents happy. I can't.
Just to keep the court happy?
Yeah, just to keep the court happy. It's only going to have a lasting effect if I'm doing it for myself. And it's something I tell a lot of the new people that come in, that you have to do it for yourself, because that's the only way it's going to really make a difference, I guess. And I've had to learn to love myself too. And
So you've been there 8.5 months. You've done all the programs at Dooralong. You knew it was run by the Salvation Army, so were you ready for chapel night that very first Wednesday that you were there?
Oh, well, I suppose I had to be.
You didn't have a choice.
Didn't have a choice. I really can't remember my first chapel that well at all. I do. I can remember feeling very blessed because of the great meal that we had.
Yes, you have a roast before, don't you?
And then I honestly can't remember what the first sermon was about at all.
All a bit of
I've
a blur.
had a few of them now, but yeah.
So how does that spirituality dimension to the treatment sort of sit with you?
Really good, I think. I think you have to have it. You have to be able to. It's hard to answer that, but
you're open to it.
It sits well with me, I can identify a few, at least one very significant event in my life which I can't explain by any other means, and I think I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah,
something that happened to me when I was a bit younger, so I do know that there's things out there that as a human I can't possibly explain, and I can't possibly comprehend. So. That to me, it helps me accept a higher power.
Yeah, but there is something out there greater
than humans. Yeah, so I feel very fortunate for that, because I understand that not every person gets that event in their life. So
how are things with your mum and dad now? Because you were saying it's been a bit of an up and down relationship over the years.
Yeah, well, I still feel I think I feel a lot of guilt and shame when I'm around them, and I'm a bit not at ease. But that's going to take time to subside, and it's going to. I'm still going through a process of forgiving myself for what I've done, and they've given me a really great life. There was always food on the table, and a fair bit of love, and the fact that I have kind of spat that back in their face, I feel really ashamed about all that.
Yeah. So that sort of barrier that you feel between your mum and yourself, it's really the barrier of guilt and shame and
I dare say
self-loathing almost that you feel for the previous version 1 of Kieran. Yeah, Kieran version 1. You've been there now 8.5 months. Have you dared to think of a future without alcohol, without drugs?
I don't like thinking about the future too much. It definitely gives me anxiety. There's a saying out there that if you think about the past, you get depression. If you think about the future too much, you get anxiety.
Just live in the moment.
You got to live in the present. But I've started a TAFE course in land conservation, and a career in national parks would be ideal, I think.
Yeah.
But just something trying to help the environment, because I always felt strongly against how our current society is just consuming and destroying.
Yes, materialistic.
Yeah, very materialistic.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the areas where anger has come in my life. Just not being happy with the way that my parents were living, or the way that just humans in general live. But I can't. I've got to have courage to change the things I can, and I can't change everyone, but I can change myself. So.
Yeah. Okay, look, we're going to have a break for more music. We'll come back and talk about that again. That sounds really interesting. 94.9, we are listening today, having a good chat with Kieran from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. Just before that break for the music, Kieran was mentioning some events that happened in his life which gave him an awareness that there is something out there that we Christians call God, and it concerns a radio station. It probably wasn't Rima Central Coast, but it was I think probably Rima Newcastle, because this happened up in Singleton.
Yeah.
Did it? Yeah. Do you want to tell our listeners what that was? It was happening one evening, I think you were saying.
Yeah, it was one day. I was still in addiction pretty heavily, and people will probably think I'm crazy for this, but I was flicking through the radio channels like I often would on a friend's radio, and it kept going to this radio station which I didn't know which it was, and I didn't seem to be able to get to Triple J and then KOFM without it getting stuck on this one radio station constantly. And after a bit of time of listening to it, I realised that it was the Christian radio station, and after realising that I couldn't get off that one radio station, I kind of got a bit tripped out as into why it kept on jumping to that one radio station. And following that, I felt a very strong calling from some force to better my life, and a lot of strange things followed that.
Yeah.
But,
so you were trying to tune out the Christian radio station, but it wouldn't work.
As soon as I realised it was a Christian radio station, I got a bit worried, thinking that people would think that I'm listening to some
weird stuff.
Yeah, some weird godly radio station.
Yeah.
But, and a bit after that, I went and spoke to my granddad, who's a Christian Israelite, and asked him about his background and exactly where that makes me fit in. And he told me to go read the first 4 books of the New Testament, and I started reading the New Testament, and
but it's something unexplainable.
Yeah, and
the radio kept jumping back to Rima, Rima.
Yeah.
Good. That's encouraging for us to know. Thank you for sharing that, Kieran. You were telling us as well, just before the break, of this hope you've got, and passion, I think it probably is, for the land and for the environment, and you're actually studying land care at TAFE, is that right?
Land conservation and land management, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say thanks to Christian Back for pushing me towards taking up a TAFE course while I was out there.
Yeah.
Definitely something I probably wouldn't have done if I didn't have his support and guidance there.
Yeah, and this is it will probably always something that interested you, but is now developing into a bit of a passion and hopefully a career.
Yeah, well, like you said before, it was probably there, but it was definitely buried underneath my addiction, my care for the land and the world that has been given to us. And I think that this planet gives us everything that we need, and plus more, really. And
we mess it up.
I think taking care of it for future generations is of the utmost importance, really.
Yeah.
So if I could get a career in the environment, I would be more than happy.
If anybody's listening who has such an opportunity or knows of somebody that has such an opportunity, get in touch with Rima Central Coast and we'll put you in touch with Kieran. How many more months of study have you got at TAFE?
A bit past the halfway, or a bit past 6 months at that course. It's a diploma, so it's 18. It's 18 months, and so
it's tough game, but
sometime through halfway through next year.
Yeah,
it should be over.
And then you get the qualification, and then you can start looking for a career in that.
Yeah.
How long is it since you've had a real sort of hope for the future and a passion for the future?
Probably shortly after I finished Year 12.
School.
Even though I completely flunked my HSC.
Yeah.
Probably, probably when I was after around 18, 19, I still had a bit of a small hope that my future was going to be somewhat bright, but a few worse events happened to me around then.
So you've had a lot of years where there was just you were hopeless for the future.
I'd say there's times there where I looked at my addiction as just a long, slow, drawn out suicide, and just I knew that I was throwing my life away, and I didn't care, and it was quite depressing.
So, Kieran, you've been there 8.5 months. You must be fairly close to graduation by now.
Yeah, well, I have an interview with a halfway house up at Newcastle next week, and if they accept me into their halfway house, I can stay there for up to 12 months.
Oh, that's a good idea, isn't it?
It's a place where I have to go and do a bit of shopping and have to cook my own meals and be a bit more independent.
Yeah.
Again, because out at Dooralong, we're a therapeutic community, and everyone chips in and does that little bit, and I'm definitely not I'm quite dependent, I guess, on the whole system out there to be fed and whatnot, so I'm hoping that this halfway house, which is Brighton House, will support me in becoming a independent, self-reliant, responsible young man.
Yeah, and it's that transition, isn't it, into the community at large, where during that 12 months that house that you mentioned, you still feel supported. The help is still there, and it's a good stepping stone to sort of stepping out into
that's exactly
the
how
world.
that's exactly how I see it. It's the next step from Dooralong in my recovery is to go to a place where I'm still held accountable, still got the support, and
will they take your dog? Or is Mum going to have to?
I wish.
No,
like I've said, I have said to my parents that they're probably going to have to take care of Blue for
a little while,
possibly one more year.
It'd be nice if you and he could get a job on the land. You could sort of
it'd be ideal.
Support each other.
Yeah, it would be ideal. But
we'll leave it. Like, God seems to, at various points in your life, be nudging you and prompting you and pushing you. Perhaps you were resistant to it all, but he's nevertheless, guided you to Dooralong and given you various insights. And I'm sure he has a future plan for you. It's just us tuning into his plan for the future.
Yeah. I just got to pray for knowledge of his will and the power to carry that out, as it says in the 12 steps. And it's not always easy, but as long as I keep doing what he wants for me, I use the word he just because it's convenient.
It's a spirit.
But what God wants for me is the best. So I just got to keep doing what's the best for me, and
Well, you made a really mature and sensible decision not to leave after 3 months when you could have done, when the court would have allowed you to do so. You're still there 8.5 months later. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the right reasons, and God has his hand on your shoulder and sort of pointing you in the right direction. That sounds great.
I believe so, yeah.
Thanks for coming in this morning, Kieran, and sharing your story with us. You'll be going back to Dooralong now, and it's chapel night again tonight, so another good meal.
It is, yes.
Nice
we're
warm
having
meal.
Roast beef, I think.
Are you in the kitchen? Do you work in the kitchen?
Yes, work in the kitchen.
You know exactly what's on the menu then. Yeah. Well, we better not keep you any longer, otherwise they won't be getting any food tonight. So, give our best to everybody but back at Dooralong, and thanks for coming out here and talking. You've been listening to an encore presentation of the Dooralong stories, which can be heard live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and repeated 8 p.m. Sunday and 1 a.m. Wednesday, right here on 94.9 rema.cc.